Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David,
I'm Colin.
and this is where we talk all things Star Wars. Colin, how was your day today?
Good, good. Shout out to the wife because it's her birthday. Happy birthday. She's sitting on the couch, like in the corner.
Happy
Yep.
birthday, Brooke.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also another Star Wars podcast related birthday today, Matty B in Houston. He often, or sometimes co-hosts us on Patreon.
Happy
And,
birthday.
yeah, for sure. And right away, Liam McCallan is in the chat saying, "Evening, one and all."
What's up, Liam?
Hopefully, we get to meet up with Liam at Star Wars Celebration here coming up in Europe. And LeBron Fett says, "Hello, everybody."
Liam, LeBron, hello, everyone. Yeah. Oh man. We are slowly approaching celebration. We are getting there. It is less than a month now.
Exactly a month away from
Yeah.
when I think I get on my plane.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep. That's
yeah,
that's wild to think about. Wild, wild, wild.
it is wild.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
you
before we
actually
get
just got your,
started,
yeah, I was gonna say he's very
before
excited
we get
about this.
yeah, I just want to say thank you for all the love and support to our awesome patrons. Starting off with the purple tier, we have Chris Simpson, who we should be meeting at Celebration, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Sean Greathouse, and Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526, Maya Morris, Texas Fader 76. And on the black tier, we have Maka Tautala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, and of course, Liam McCallion already in the chat. So thank you very much, everyone, for all the love and support. It's been a great help to the podcast. You've kept us going, and we're going to a celebration due to your support. So thank you very much. Oh, and Evan's on the chat too. Just mentioned him.
What's up? There you go. All right. Well, let's dive into the news. For the most part, the news that we've got this week has been stuff kind of circulating like around lately, but we personally have not talked about it. But let's dive into it. For the red carpet premiere, Kathleen Kennedy was not there. According to John Favreau, she was under the weather. How do we feel about that? Do you think that she was not there on purpose, or do you actually think she was not sick?
No, I think she was
according to the
actually under the
rumors.
weather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think she was sick. She just wasn't able to make it because, as we showed on the podcast, they took a huge group photo with people we didn't even know who they actually were. That guy on the right-hand side, if anyone knows in chat who that guy is, let us know.
No.
I think we still don't exactly know. But
Seeing
yeah, just
Bob
about
Iger
everyone.
there is great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to actually see him there. And yeah, just about everyone was there. Bill Burr was even there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really cool to see Mercedes Vernado, aka Sasha Banks, aka the new name she's going by in the WWE. Not too familiar with it, but yeah, I think she's changed her name. But yeah, it was really cool to see him show up, and really shows you that Star Wars is a huge family. And I love to see it. I love to see all the legacy people show up. It would have been cool if Mark Hamill would have showed up. That would have been kind of nice to see. But
right. Yeah, because he's been in two of these projects now, so it's just like okay. But I've noticed he's been not attending that many Star Wars events lately, like as much as he used to, which is really weird because he's been to a lot of celebrations in the past, and he hasn't been to one since 2017, which is crazy to think about.
yeah, I kind of regret now not getting his autograph.
Yeah,
and picture, because I thought he was just going to keep on coming. Because I know he went to London and he did like a whole kind of
panel thing, right?
storytelling thing on the Star Wars show stage, which is really cool to see. I want to see all the guys from the previous films just get up and just start talking, almost like they're doing their own podcast on stage.
Do you think we'll have our normal celebration host there? Like, do you think we'll have Anthony Carboni and?
Yeah, for sure.
Andy,
I'm pretty sure they're showing up. Anthony and Andy don't do the Star Wars show anymore. Kristen Baver does, but they still show up to do the actual live show, which I love. I appreciate it. I love those two. Those two together have great chemistry. They're magic. Liam asked in the chat on YouTube, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe, comment below.
Yeah, please.
Liam is asking, was Rosario Dawson there? She was there. She actually got in Mercedes' picture. She had a championship belt, and they were actually kind of playing tug of war. I think I showed that picture on the last podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was there. It's kind of hard to name the people that weren't there. Giancarlo Esposito was there. Ming-Na Wen was there. Just about everyone that's been in The Mandalorian, aside from my
yeah, because Tamara Morrison wasn't there, but Daniel Logan was.
I'm not sure if he was or wasn't there. I know Daniel Logan was there. He got interviewed.
I feel like if Tamara was, then there would have been a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if Tamara Morrison is like a working, like a very kind of usual like working actor. You know, I'm not quite sure if he has like a lot of projects lined up or anything. I think he's just basically
doing Star Wars stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of maybe enjoying retirement possibly and just doing Star Wars only. But yeah, I hope to see him at Celebration.
Well, I think it might be in Aquaman 2. Like
yeah, that's a possibility. It's very much a possibility.
But yeah, man, yeah. That first episode of Mandalorian had a lot of story building for the season. It was great. In the opening shot where it is like the kind of opening credits, it's got the logo and everything like they do for every Star Wars project. We got for chapter 17, we got the Vader helmet, R2, Fennec Shands, TIE pilot, the Bo-Katan helmet, IG-11, the Scout Trooper helmet, the armor, and Din Djarin, and there was no music either for it. And I think
which I think is a first.
Is it? Oh, wait, hang on. I think you're right. Yeah. I mean, I really wasn't. I think they did that because they didn't want to I think they jumped into the story right away. And I also liked how the beginning kind of went into a very big Jon Favreau Easter egg, which is, which is Tony Stark is like hammering his armor and that's what and in a cave, by the way, and that's exactly what that's what the armor was doing in the beginning of this episode. So I love that Easter egg. But for the no music thing, I don't think that's a big deal. I think it just kind of fit in with this episode in particular that they were kind of jumping back into it and they wanted you to be immersed as possible. Liam says, am I right saying they showed 2 episodes at the premiere? Yes, they did. The big saying right now about the second episode is that it's a very big episode. It's very important. It's 42 minutes of actual screen time, which is great. I am very excited for it. And then Pedro Pascal kind of hinted at that something big happens to him. I know some people are thinking it's going to be like a thing where it's going to be like, oh, he's going to be a Skywalker because one of his limbs is going to get chopped off or something. I hope they don't go that route. That would suck. But
that's what I thought. I thought, man, Bo-Katan is going to chop something off of Din.
Yeah.
And we're going to see mayhem.
Yeah. But we'll have to wait and see in this week's episode.
Yeah.
Which comes out every single week on Wednesday at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pacific Time, 12.
So Bad Batch and The Mandalorian Season 3 released simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
The Bad Batch will be going until March 29th. And then we'll just have a couple of episodes left after that of The Mandalorian. And April 5th and April 12th will be the same kind of week span from Celebration. And that's really funny because April 5th is the day that most of us are hopping on a plane to go to London. And then April 12th is the day where most of us are going back, which is kind of funny.
See, I'm thinking they're going to show that penultimate episode in London, so we'll get to see the episode before we get the finale. The week after that.
I would love that.
Well, I mean, we got to jump that hurdle of winning that lottery there, Colin. So
don't remind me. Don't remind me, please.
So yeah, going back to the fanfare, I'm really kind of wondering about this, and I've not read anything or heard anyone talk about this, but who designed this? Who came up with this idea? And what is the reasoning behind the different helmets that they show? Because in The Mandalorian, it was kind of interesting because they started off with Vader. And they kind of continued that with R2 Fennec, a TIE pilot, which is kind of random, and which is what I cosplay as in the 501st. Bo-Katan, IG-11, a scout, which kind of fits. It was kind of at the end, famously played by Jason Sudeikis. The Armored, and then Din Djarin. So what's the rhyme or reason behind this? Is it just randomized, or?
I think it is because when we get the Bad Batch, it's got characters from the Bad Batch on there.
Yeah.
Fun fact about the 501st, because you just brought it up. It's officially been 6 years since I've been a member of the 501st, which like really kind of puts my kind of Star Wars kind of life in perspective, because I joined in 2018, and it was shortly after Star Wars Celebration. I talked to David, and then David kind of helped me kind of get in the right direction. And then in a way I helped David, because he was like, oh wait, okay, cool. And then David jumped on the bandwagon, and it was right before Star Wars Celebration 2019, right? Or like was it
right after 2017 when we met, because I think we
Yeah.
talked about it. We're like, hey, are you in the 501st? Are you in the 501st? And we're like, no,
Right.
we probably should join. And then going to it and then seeing all these 501st members, and we met the founder, Albin Johnson, right outside the bash, I believe.
That was so cool.
Yeah, he was like really super busy. We took a picture with him, and he was like, okay, I gotta go, guys.
Yeah.
And then I ran into him at Disney Springs when I think I went to Disney World for May the Force be with you. May the Force be with you. But yeah, it's man, it's such a blur. It's so wild. I was gonna mention something else. I think I just forgot exactly what I was gonna mention.
Well, when you're thinking about that, also in the opening of Chapter 17, the kid who played the Tusken kid and the Poke Boba Fett, and then who you see the foundling in Chapter 17 in the beginning of this episode, of where the armorer puts on the helmet on him and everything, that is Jimmy Kimmel's nephew, which if I was his age, I would be soaking all of this in. I would be able to look back and be like, I was part of a Star Wars project. I was part of the Tusken Raiders. I was also Mandalorian. I'm in Star Wars. This is the dream. I can even imagine and it's just like Jake Lloyd of playing Anakin Skywalker and then going back to school and being like, hey, look, like I remember being that age, and that's all I wanted to do. And I love like that kid is living his Star Wars life. I love that so much. And it's crazy that he's the nephew of Jimmy Kimmel as well.
Yeah, this is actually part of our corrections here. I think I said that he was Jimmy Kimmel's son. Yeah, he's actually his nephew.
Yep.
And he was actually cast in the Book of Boba Fett to play the young Tusken boy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he's actually a veteran now of Star Wars. And the interesting thing was Jon Favreau was on Jimmy Kimmel this past week, and he talked about the fact that he didn't know that Wesley Kimmel was Jimmy Kimmel's nephew. So he was like trying to search him out. He's like, where is he? And once he found him, he was like, oh, okay. And he mentioned to Jimmy Kimmel that Robert Rodriguez cast him because of his martial arts background. And Jimmy Kimmel's like, I don't think he have a martial arts background.
That's funny.
So we don't know if that's true, or were they just making some type of joke or what. But I mean, he's in. So he's he is a foundling, and I just can't get over the fact that that helmet that was being created by the armor at the beginning of chapter 17 that Ponce. And by the way,
Yeah.
these are all spoilers here. So when that was being created, I think all of us as an audience really kind of were thinking, oh my gosh, what is she creating? Is she creating a helmet for Grogu? Is she creating maybe like the new pram we see that Grogu flies around on? But no, it was a helmet. And the thing that struck me was like the thickness of the visors, like really thick, which is what all the kids' helmets are in stores right now. They're like really thick. And
Yeah.
that's what's always deterred me from buying them because they just don't look like a typical Mandalorian helmet.
Well, that helmet in particular looked like the Hasbro very early on. Like I'm talking
Yes.
about kind of like in the early like at the end of the early 2000s into the 2010s of when they had the Boba Fett helmet come out and everything. Because that was the first thing that popped in my head. And then when we had the Bad Batch breakdown, and I asked Hunter, Star, and Christian and Josh and all of them like the like of their like main thoughts of the episode. That was like the first thing that a couple of them said was like that helmet is a reminder of what of what came out all those years ago, and the visor threw me off too. Yeah. So no, like I thought that was great. I thought the whole ceremony was great. And then in the scripture after Din Djarin like saves them, and then all the Mandalorians give him like the side eye, being like, "Hey, what the heck are you doing here?" He walks into into the armorer's cave and puts down the scripture of like the kind of myth about the planet Mandalore and everything, and it's actually taken out of the Bible. It's from the Old Testament, which was very, very interesting. I think they're going the religious route this season, because if you watch these past episodes of the Mandalorian, he even says, having these weapons is part of my religion. They look at this of his culture of being a Mandalorian as a religion. And I think we're definitely going to dive deeper into what being a Mandalorian is about this season, and why it's important to the different clans of not taking off their helmets or taking off their helmets. And I think we're definitely going to get more into the political side of the Mandalorian people as well. And hopefully we actually get more on Tar Vizsla and more about the Darksaber. I think just a history lesson episode would be awesome, of just learning a lot about just the entire culture. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, it does feel like they didn't spare much expense for chapter 3, looking at all the trailers and the space battles and all the CGI that they put into it. But yeah,
For
that's
season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Star Wars, the beauty of what they've been doing is they pull from different religions, different myths, and this is kind of classic Star Wars here, pulling from the Book of Exodus from the Bible, and specifically as chapters on Moses, because I think Exodus is about basically the story of Moses and how he leads the people from rule under the Egyptians and is like the leader. And what kind of foreshadowing that has, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they're alluding to the fact that Din Djarin is going to lead Mandalore out of the funk that they're in, maybe uniting the children of the Watch and then the other sect of Mandalorians that can take their helmets off. And a lot of people, I think, have been talking about the fact that maybe after this season, Din Djarin will be taking his helmet off more, even though it does benefit the actor Pedro Pascal to keep the helmet on so he could do other work and just do the voiceover stuff. And because we all famously now know that there's two other people in the suit, one primarily for martial arts and the other one for just inhabiting the suit and giving off that swagger that I think people have said that Brendan Wayne loves to do.
I think there's something else that I think people think of when that happens is like, oh, if he takes the helmet off, he's never going to wear it again, which is no, because he's going to wear his helmet during battle. He'll definitely wear his helmet when he's on the go. It's just during the important scenes, he can, take it off and you can see the beautiful face of Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
And I just think that that a lot of people were thinking, well, once he takes the helmet off, it's never coming back on. It's like, no, he'll just take it off during the important parts, because during battle and all that stuff, he'll definitely have it on. They can still have the stunt doubles doing all that stuff. I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah, and they could do a thing where he wears it just predominantly off of just habit, really, and just doesn't take it off because he just prefers to wear it because it's kind of probably feels like a part of him. They could go that route if they go the route of changing his religion and saying, well, I don't have to wear it, so you can be on the show more.
True.
So yeah, the other interesting aspect of this first episode, The Apostate, for The Mandalorian Season 3 is the fact that they addressed Carrotune, which I didn't think they were going to mention her at all, because I don't think you really have to, but they went ahead and did it. And if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, you can see right there the caption state, after she brought in Moff Gideon, she was recruited by Special Forces, which I think made a lot of people chuckle. And because if you're in our bubble, you know exactly what happened with Gina Carano and her situation, and that she's probably never gonna be back in Star Wars, but there's always a chance she might come back.
I think something that's great though is like they just didn't say, oh yeah, she was in a shuttle crash and it blew up, and they just didn't kill her off. Like I think they did it in a great way where it's like she's still there, but she's not there. And for a character like that was a fan favorite for 2 seasons, I think that's the best way you're going to be able to send a character off like that. Could they recast her in the future? Probably. Are they going to? Probably not. How would you feel if they recast her character entirely?
I would feel okay with it. I think the popular suggestion was maybe get Lucy Lawless in there, who is kind of a professional actress. But I think she's also kind of like in a retirement phase. But she does more or less kind of resemble Gina Carano. But it's just kind of one of those things. It really doesn't matter to me what they do with that character. But I think during this time is when everything went down with Gina Carano getting released. And this is probably dialogue that was kind of added in, kind of like spur of the moment type situation. And they weren't sure what they were going to do with the Rangers of the New Republic, because reports came out that show was going to be kind of led by Cara Dune and possibly Hera Syndulla. So, yeah, it's just one of those kind of by the seat of your pants, try to address it and just kind of move on. But it wouldn't really bother me if they recast. I think either or recast her, or just maybe have her come back. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's kind of a political social situation, so I don't know. It's just a thing that exists now in The Mandalorian. And I felt like Gina Carano was actually, her acting was getting better the more and more episodes she was doing. I think in the episode The Believer, I thought that was her best acting so far. And I thought, okay, well, she's kind of coming along. She, to me, was almost like the female version of Dave Bautista. How Dave Bautista started out kind of small with not a lot of lines and kind of grew and grew and grew. Now Bautista's a really good actor.
Yeah.
He's shockingly good.
He's come a long way.
In Blade Runner 2049, there was like an internet kind of episodic adventure to take before you saw the movie, and his acting was just incredible. It'll really shock you if you go ahead and watch that online. It's somewhere online. It's probably in special features as well for the Blade Runner disc. But yeah, I wanted to go back to something that Evan brought up. He says, why does Din wear his helmet after he was banished? Didn't he say in season 1 that if he takes it off, he can't put it back on? I think that's just Din Djarin trying to kind of atone by just simply wearing it. I mean,
Yeah,
and being respectful in front of the armor.
I think he feels guilty. I think that's a big thing. And again, this will be that adjustment um, type of period for Din, because I think he's going to be like, well, you know what? I don't, there's all these clans, there's all these different things. I think it's going to be okay if I don't go back the way, and I'm still a Mandalorian. I don't think it's like for all the people that he runs into, and they're just like, I've seen Mandalorians take off their helmet. It's not that big of a deal, but then you see it's a big deal to him. I think that's definitely that feeling is going to change, and I think that's what's going to unite the other clans. And I could definitely see him by the end of this being the ruler of Mandalore. Do people want that? Probably not. But I think that's the direction that it's going into. Uh, because Din definitely has a good head on his shoulders. He has grown up a lot since season 1, and he is no longer just that normal bounty hunter. He is on the move. He is searching for more. He's got someone to actually take care of that he cares about a lot. And again, this is also kind of real. This is also kind of like a real life thing. But when you have a kid, your whole perspective changes. And I think that's what happened to Din Djarin when he's like, okay, I am like officially taking care of Grogu. Like he is pretty much my son. So I am going to do everything in my power to do the right thing. And I think going forward, I think he's going to see being the ruler of these people is going to be, the right thing to do. And we've definitely seen him. We've seen some of his leadership skills, and I think going out and asking for help and stuff like that shows a lot of strength, because sometimes asking for help is a very hard thing to do, and Din Djarin doesn't hesitate with that, and especially during tough situations. So I think that he would be a great leader of Mandalore, and if they go that direction, that's great. If they just have him being a loner with Grogu for the rest of his life, that's fine too. But yeah.
If you look at the picture now on YouTube that I have up, I didn't even notice there was an off-world Jawa right there, off to the right of that pole.
They kind of blend in.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Crash Test Wookie says it might be out of habit that he keeps the helmet on. Liam says, I'm glad they covered it off, and that's it. Ended. Yeah, I mean, I think they did it as gracefully as possible. Other people were thinking, it would have been kind of a not the best choice to maybe kill her off. I mean, you could definitely kill her off screen, but I think her being recruited by special forces was probably the best way to go. And Maka, one of our Black Tier patrons, is in the chat. What is up, man? Thanks for all the support.
Yeah. Let's talk about Chris Bartlett. He was the protocol droid.
Yeah, and I got to meet him at Celebration. Here's our picture.
Yep. And he's also been a guest on the podcast as well. He's a super, super nice guy. I'm so glad that that he has a lot going on for him, especially in all these Star Wars shows. If you go back on our past episodes, you can definitely hear like his kind of history of being in the 501st and the Rebel Legion and everything, and then kind of working his way up to where he is now. But he is very, very successful, and to me, I think the most important thing is that he enjoys what he does, and he's a Star Wars fan enjoying what he does. So awesome thing for him. Again, super nice guy. I believe it was our Andor hype episode that he was on. Yeah. So go and check that episode out if you haven't yet. But yeah, so that was super cool to see him on there.
So yeah, I think he's one of the actors now, along with like Misty Rosas and Leilani Shu, that are always in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
In like the Book of Boba Fett, all those shows that shoot at Manhattan Beach Studios, probably also in Ahsoka, but they can't just come out and say yes, I'm in these shows, because they have to sign NDAs.
Right.
But I was pretty sure that he was at least the school teacher in the school for chapter 17 of
Yeah.
The Mandalorian season 3. And he released this on here. So that copper droid, whose actual name is C-OPR or Copper, is a brand new protocol droid in the Outer Rim or Star Wars The Mandalorian. Copper serves Grief Karga as his right hand on the planet Navarro. You'll also find the white tourism droid. Some have speculated is K3PO from the era of the Rebel Alliance, but it's more likely that she is just another of the same run of droids. I'm the actor performing both characters, and I can't wait for you to see the upcoming episodes. Richer stories and deeper themes. Cheers to our makers, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and to you, our audience, for watching. So it's fantastic. He is basically all the droids you see, all the
Yeah.
protocol droids that are walking around. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, Chris, time to get in this suit, time to get in that suit. But yeah, I heard someone mention the fact that that ebony colored droid is a more expensive droid to purchase, and it kind of shows the growth of Navarro and that
Yeah.
settlement that Grief Karga is the High Magistrate on.
I
And
also like how
it's a
his
good touch.
droids are. I'm sorry. I love how his eyes are green. I thought that was a cool touch because
Yeah,
you normally see them being yellow or red, and you really don't see that many green eye droids. So that's
yeah,
cool. That's cool.
yeah, really cool.
Yeah. And we did get the Enze Ellens in this episode. I didn't think it was going to be episode 1, but I'm really glad that we did. We didn't see Babu Frick in this one, which most likely we'll see that larger shot that we saw at Celebration where all of them are where they were all working on something.
Yeah.
But the actress Shirley Henderson did all the voices.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we didn't get Babu Frick in the actual episode, but all the Enze Ellens were voiced apparently by Shirley Henderson, who, of
Who
course, if you're
plays
watching this on YouTube, you see that she played Moaning Myrtle
from the
in
Chamber of
Harry
Secrets and the
Potter.
rest of the Harry Potter movies. It's crazy. It's crazy
So
to think about that.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I like the fact that they brought her back. And one of the big highlights from the Rise of Skywalker film was, I think, Babu Frick and the voice
Yes.
acting that she provided. And it's just very Star Warsy to see all those puppets, and then the puppets kind of interacted with each other. And of course, Grogu gave that big hug to one of the Enze Ellens, and I think
Yeah.
that was definitely a moment. And people have screenshotted that and posted that and memed it, and it's pretty much everywhere. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that they brought back those guys, and it's cool that they're kind of droid builders and like super technical and kind of a part. They play another part and another kind of beloved aspect of Star Wars, and we'll probably get to see them more. I don't think this is the last we see of those
Oh
guys.
no. And then you wanted to change your initial rating for this episode to
Yeah, after watching it again, I watched it a couple of times, kind of interrupted because I had to do other things, but sometimes this happens to me. I'll listen to people's judgment
yeah.
and their critique, and I'm like, I have to tell myself, okay, am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? But I really love chapter 1. And I know you have people will come out and say this is the weakest of the openings for the 3
Yeah.
seasons. But I mean, it's still a great opening. And
These
for me
characters are
personally,
established now. Yeah, I'm just like
yeah, it was reassurance to me that okay, the Mandalorian is back. They're doing Star Wars the way I love to see Star Wars done in a TV show. And of course, you can't really take nothing away from the very first episode of season 1 and the very first episode of season 2, which we all say was like a mini Mandalorian film with the introduction of Cobb Vanth. And then at the end where we got to get the reveal that Boba Fett was
yeah.
alive and well. And then we got the huge crate dragon scene. And to me, I think I'm moving my my rating from an 8 to a 9 for the Apostate, because for me personally it's a 9 because all the puppets, the storytelling, the
Yeah,
fact that we got the connective tissue to Rebels, and they're starting to drop little hints here and there that, hey, look, we're moving to something that all the hardcore fans know about in the Purgles and the Space Wells, and that we're gonna lead up to Ahsoka, which is coming out.
yeah.
That hopefully at Celebration London, we're gonna get some type of like really cool trailer.
I think we will. I would be surprised if they didn't drop the trailer for Ahsoka or a teaser for Skeleton Crew, and we'll probably even have like a teaser trailer for the show Acolyte. I think one big thing about Chapter 17 for Mando was it hit a lot of the Star Wars boxes for me. We we got a space battle. We traveled to different planets. We learned more about the Mandalorian culture, including more world building. And I think that's some of the great things about Star Wars. Did we get any lightsaber action? No. And that's totally fine with me. We don't need to, check that box every single time. But I think we got the main
But
Star
we know we
Wars.
will.
Yes, we definitely will. But we definitely got the main Star Wars vibe checks off for this episode, in my opinion. And just seeing the Naboo Starfighter, in battle again is awesome. It's so cool. And I think one of my favorite moments from any new Star Wars project is that scene from the Book of Boba Fett where he goes to Beggar's Canyon and he actually does the test drive for it. And you hear the engine, going off and him just hitting the speed and going right next to the ramp of where Anakin crashed all those years ago through it. And it's chef's kiss. I loved it so much. Liam says some of the people I know rated Chapter 17 lower, but haven't watched Rebels, and I think that's why. Well, I don't think the Purgles were that large, like part of like. I mean, I don't think that people were like, "Oh my gosh!" Like it's Star Wars Rebels, it's the Space Whales. I think it was a nice nod to what's coming, and I think it's them being like, "Hey, don't worry." Just wait until Ahsoka. It's going to be live action Rebels pretty much. And I think that was just a solid, like a nice touch. I don't think it was, this is going to be, very important this season of The Mandalorian. I think it was just a nice hint to what's to come. And I don't think it really has to, I don't think you need to know what happens in Star Wars Rebels to, be like, oh, it's the space whales, because not everyone knows the actual names of them. But I think that going forward, I think they'll drop more subtle hints to Rebels this season, and then this show will lead directly into Ahsoka. I think that's exactly what's going to happen, and I got a feeling that Ahsoka will end up having another cameo in of this season. Probably Boba Fett when he goes to Tatooine. I would be surprised if we didn't get some type of Luke Skywalker cameo. Just going forward, there's just going to be a lot going on. I'm really intrigued for this next episode though, because apparently, there's a lot that happens. So I'm really curious of what all the hype's about. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. When I first learned of space whales, I immediately went back to Attack of the Clones when he had those flying whales on Camino.
Yeah.
And I saw the concept art, I think, before Attack of the Clones, and they were mentioned as flying whales in the Camino atmosphere, and they could go underwater. And I was like, wow, that's a crazy concept. But it's interesting that there are creatures that big that resemble whales that can actually fly in space as well, and they have a pretty huge part in Star Wars history. If you go back and look at that particular species' history in Star Wars, they're responsible for figuring out the hyperspace lanes and making those safe to travel through. So that's really interesting.
We have Kitty Sackhoff that also said that everyone's going to lose their minds over the season.
Yeah. Here's the picture where
Yeah.
she kind of was asked that question, and I'm excited, man. I'm really excited because
I'm
there's
glad
so
that
much
we're back in that
potential.
vibe. Like it's so great. I love the Star Wars vibe. I remember after we did our kind of hype episode, like right before Chapter 17 came out, and then I think James was like, "Oh shoot, it's out," and it was like 10 minutes early, and then we all hopped off. I just remember I was like, "Oh, let's go!" Like, it's like I just had that kind of heart beating experience of being like, "Oh my gosh, it's back, it's back, Star Wars mode. Here we go." And I just remember sitting in front of the couch and just kind of having that feeling of back when the show first came out back in 2019. Uh, that was awesome. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
I just feel like the Mandalorian is peak Star Wars. I was on the Countdown to the Geekcast Mandalorian review show, and one of the listeners asked the question, "What is you guys' favorite Star Wars thing or Star Wars film TV show?" And I gotta say, man, at this point, it's the Mandalorian for me. I had to think really long and hard. Thankfully, I was like the sixth person to answer, so I had a lot of time to think about it. Because I mean, of course, I love the original trilogy. That's the basis for everything that we know today, and has inspired so many filmmakers and actors to
Yeah.
do what they do today. But living throughout the 80s and 90s and having just the original trilogy and always dreaming and wondering how could you continue on Star Wars? It almost seemed like an impossibility to me because Star Wars, the original trilogy, was like perfection to me. It's like, how could you get funner than that? And we had, of course, the rest of Hollywood trying to duplicate the success of Star Wars, but nobody
Yeah.
really could. I'd always jump to different franchises like Star Trek and many others that just could not duplicate what Star Wars did. And
Yeah.
it was so confusing to me. It's like once I saw the original trilogy on VHS, I was asking my dad, I was like, okay, where's the next thing? And to me personally, I really didn't get it until we got Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings for high fantasy and the way he successfully created those movies. So I fell in love with those as well. But I mean,
Yeah.
so many years in between, I was looking for the next Star Wars and it just never came. So we essentially waited for Star Wars to come back.
I'm glad that I was born during the time that I was because I didn't have to wait like that long
Jeez.
and
You lucky little kid.
right, yeah. And Revenge of the Sith came out on my birthday, and I was stoked. I was so excited going into the theater. Definitely walked out crying because everything that happened in the movie. But I just remember right before we went to the movie, they I, I don't know how McDonald's didn't have the deal, but Burger King did, where they had like the Star Wars toys, and I remember getting a Yoda bobblehead, and my dad was like, "All right, are you ready?" And I was like, "Sure." Like I'm so pumped, and I just I just remember sitting there with my dad and my older brother, and we I was like, this is peak Star Wars. It can't get better than this, and here we are years later. We have so many Star Wars projects, and I will say now it's crazy to think about like all the kids now where they don't have to really wait for all these Star Wars projects. They can just turn on Disney Plus and almost every single thing is on there for watching. There's so many hours of content that people can watch, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Um, and I think that's the beauty of Star Wars is that it's because the galaxy is so broad, it's so
Yeah.
massive. The story will never end. There will always be Star Wars there. I don't think one day they'll be like, all right, that's it, we're done. It's like, no, you can't do that with a massive galaxy like Star Wars because there's so many characters, there's so many, different planets and storylines that they can explore. And it's crazy. And the fact that it's beyond the project that George Lucas, came up with is incredible. And it's just the story that keeps on giving. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And I don't think it will ever end. And that's kind of what the Mandalorian is. It's a gift to the audience. It's the same, but it's not the same. And I think they nailed it. Where it's not every episode we're seeing R2D2 or Luke Skywalker or Chewie or anything, but we're in the same universe. We know what's happening during the same timeline, and then we're also getting Luke Skywalker here and there, and then we're also getting stuff from Clone Wars and Rebels, and just kind of adding on to my generation of Star Wars, and that's just something that everyone truly wants in a franchise where they feel that it's the same, but it's different at the same time. And I know it's kind of weird to say, but that's the best way to describe it, because if you just had a copy and paste of what you have had before, then it won't be good, right? Because if you look at the live action Lion King, live action is very broad because there was only one live action shot in that film, but the Lion King remake, compared to the original, it's pretty much a copy and paste of that, but it's just in a different animation and with different voice actors. That's really what that was, and what they're doing was the journey. And I think that's what they need to do with other projects. And there's a chance that they're going to be doing that with Lord of the Rings coming up, not Rings of Power, but with some of the characters that Peter Jackson, brought to life from this awesome and well-written book series of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Silmarillion. Like, there's so much content that they can do, and bringing in the original creator of the films is a smart idea, just depending on how they do the characters. But again, if they don't do a copy and paste of what they did in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and everything we've seen live action, I think it'll be fine. But just having the continuation of these stories is what really, really matters in the long run. And that's what they're doing with The Mandalorian, and they're doing a great job with it.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the whole kind of different types of media and different types of shows for the larger, grander story. We just got Andor, and now we got The Mandalorian. They're two different styles of show. Both are great. And I think recently there's been people online saying The Mandalorian is better than Andor, and Andor is better than The Mandalorian. It's like, well, I mean, in my mind, I really don't have them competing. I kind of really like to love both of them, and it's very interesting. And I think it's what we want different creators to play in the sandbox at a Star Wars. And Andor has had a huge impact. We got Andy Serkis back. We got Diego Luna coming back.
Yeah.
And I really think this second season of Andor is going to be spectacular. And there's going to be a whole lot more connective tissue. And it might have been really wise strategically the way that Disney and Lucasfilm decided to release Andor, because I think they knew that it wasn't going to get the viewership that series like The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, which is the most watched show on Disney Plus, to I think everyone's surprised. So this second season of Andor should be epic. I don't think I got your thoughts, Colin, on Gorian Shard. What did you think of his character?
The pirate?
Yeah.
I thought his design was cool. His introduction was very short and vague, but I think once we get to know the character more, I think that would be great. I think if, that episode of where maybe he is the one attacking Navarro, that would be a great way to bring in Hondo Ohnaka. And then Hondo.
Man, you really want Hondo in there, don't you?
We really want Hondo, man. And honestly, I think Hondo deserves to be live action on the screen. We've got him at, A Galaxy's Edge. That's great. That's wonderful. But seeing him kind of be his rival, or maybe we see him be this guy's first mate, and then he creates a mutiny, and then somehow he takes over. And then you see that maybe carrying into the Skeleton Crew, and you just see kind of Hondo traveling through the galaxy maybe that's how, we get that connection in Skeleton Crew. But live action Hondo, I think that's the way to go. And I think maybe that's the way to introduce him is through this guy. And I thought his design was really great. He's very swampy. He looks, kind of like Davy Jones in a way. And I just thought his design was very obscure. And, the obscure characters in Star Wars is the way to go. And I think that him attacking Navarro is coming up next.
Yeah, very Clone Wars-esque type villain. And for him to pop up like that was kind of cool. And his design was kind of unique too. And the fact that I think to see that type of design in Star Wars is interesting. But I think they pulled from very kind of different sources. And the first reaction I had to him, which I don't think a lot of people had this reaction, but he reminded me a lot of Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs.
I've seen that. Yes. Yes.
Very kind of like angular shape to the head. And like the mouth is kind of like the same kind of just like slit.
I don't think we have the species name yet either for him. But
so yeah, and Swamp Thing was an X because I looked at the nose and then like the growth of it looks like plants. I don't know. But and then the red eyes. And then I think two people actually had to portray the character. There was a person in the suit, and then there was a voice actor as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So, yeah. Liam says Pizza the Hut. Mob Rules, who's a brand new patron, says Space Thing. And Liam wants a Hondo just like you do, Colin. So going back to the comments here, I know someone was asking what our predictions are. Evan was, what our predictions are for the next episode. I think it's going to be, without knowing anything, I didn't see any of the spoilers on Twitter or read anything that the people that got to watch it. And they spoiled the episode apparently. But I know nothing about Chapter 18 of The Mandalorian Season 3. But it feels like it's going to be a very heavy Bo-Katan episode. And I think we're going to be in the mines of not Moria, but Mandalore. And
I think we're definitely going to learn more about the culture and what it truly means to be a Mandalorian in this next episode. And I think we are definitely going to explore a new side of the Mandalorian people that we've never seen before. And we've definitely got a lot of time with the Mandalorians, from the Clone Wars to Rebels to the actual show. So if you want to learn more about the Mandalorian people, just check out Clone Wars, check out Rebels. There's a lot of episodes that involve the people of Mandalore. You actually spend time on the planet in the Clone Wars a lot. And you also do spend time in Rebels, but not inside the actual capital in Rebels. But honestly, go and check it out. No, it is not called The Mines of Mandalore. I don't think we have a name of the episode yet, do we?
I think it's called The Mines of Mandalore.
Is it?
I think
is it
so.
really? Oh.
Yeah. I think it is.
I didn't think they dropped the episode name yet. Okay, interesting.
Well, I don't think they've dropped the episode name yet either, but I think it kind of leaked out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I think Galactic Transmissions made a post on it. Not too long ago.
All right. Well,
and I think we posted it on our Facebook as well. Right afterwards.
I do want to give a shout out to Galactic Transmissions because they've been killing it, man. Like we started following them when they first started, and their community has grown so much. Like, they're crushing it with the news and everything every week. So if you don't follow Galactic Transmissions, go follow them, and also follow all Star Wars. Like, they're also great with their content too. I love Mike. He's a great guy. He has been doing this for a very long time, all the way since The Last Jedi, I believe. And they love doing what they do, and their work, their work shows it. So go and check them out. Like, fantastic people.
Yeah, I was looking through. So, yeah, Galactic Transmissions is reporting that episode 2, Mines of Mandalore, runs for 42 minutes. And that was the other thing I wanted to talk about as far as chapter 17 goes, the first episode of The Mandalorian season 3. Everyone kind of moaned and groaned that it was like super short, but it was so jam packed, it almost didn't matter that it was like in the 20 range of actual footage. So that was another kind of impressive feat, I thought, for this opening chapter of this third season. So this episode was just terrific, and from what everyone's saying about the second episode of this season, that it's better than the first episode. I'm just so hyped. I'm just like overhyped right now. I want it in my veins already. So Tim Seitz from Facebook, who often contributes on our Facebook page, is talking about Gorian Shard, and he says he's Dagobah, the Swamp Thing, which I can totally see. So, and yeah, thanks Tim for all the contribution over the years online. I haven't been able to thank you enough for everything that you've done for the Facebook page and group. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that Freddie Prinze Jr. kind of jumped in the news. And of course, we all know he's married to Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which all that footage is flying around the internet now of 20-something Pedro Pascal being in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to see him like super, super young. But James is actually the person that kind of brought this story to our attention. And I got some video that I'll play right now of, I believe it's a TikTok that was made of.
Yeah,
Prinze Jr.
he just doesn't care anymore, and I think it's kind of funny. He's like,
Yeah, so
he's like,
I'll
I
play
might get in
that.
trouble. Go ahead.
I'll play that right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know this. Maybe I'm not allowed to say this, but I don't care anymore. He directed that scene in Rogue One where, well, basically the whole end of the movie where Vader comes through and is like, and you see basically what's going to happen in A New Hope. He directed all that. He also recast Darth Vader. They had cast another actor, and they asked Dave to watch the movie to see what he thinks. And I remember him going, well, you got some of the buttons wrong, some of the lighting wrong. And why'd you hire an Italian? And they go, what do you mean? And they go, how'd you know we hired an Italian? He goes, well, Darth Vader doesn't talk with his hands, but this one clearly does.
Oh, no.
That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah. He just doesn't care anymore. Because I remember him a couple of years back where he just really called out like Star Wars altogether, where he was just like, yeah, I'm just done. I'm done with everything. And he talked about like the of the way that the Force works and stuff like that. And I love Freddie Prinze Jr., but I just think that it's wild. It's just wild to me that he just doesn't care anymore.
Well, I don't think it's really a big deal. I mean, if he says something like that, I mean, it's Rogue One is the one Star Wars project that a lot of stuff happened behind the scenes, a lot of shifting, a lot of who knows what type of situations happen, because we all know that Gareth Edwards didn't direct most of it or a chunk of it. I mean, it depends on who you speak with, because Tony Gilroy stepped in and rewrote part of it and directed part of it. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. now is saying that Dave Filoni directed that hallway scene or the end of the movie. It's just kind of wild. And I know Dave Filoni hasn't been directing a lot of live action stuff. And it's so interesting that he pointed out like the lighting was wrong, the buttons were wrong. That's such a Dave Filoni thing to do. But it's interesting that we got that. And I always kind of wonder like what other stuff is going to eventually pop up here. And it's so interesting because I mean we've talked about it so much, because Star Wars will release like a box set of stuff, and we'll get stuff that we've never seen, behind the scenes features that we've never seen before, and it's like, where did this come from? And
Yeah, I just can't even imagine of what all the archives and all the warehouses they have at Skywalker Ranch are like. I know a couple of people on different gaming um companies have been able to go to the warehouse and see different things because for for EA Star Wars, they actually have the chance to go to the warehouse and check things out. And we've seen the Star Wars show go over there and see some very like, actual props used. I think that would be great to see more behind the scenes because I remember watching the Light and Magic documentary and just seeing that, all that footage that we've never seen before. And I'm so glad that they were smart back in the day and filmed a bunch of that. I think that was such a smart idea because it's great for us Star Wars fans that weren't there to live it, and now we have the chance to kind of see it through their eyes. And I think that was remarkable. Din Djarin with Grogu over at Galaxy's Edge in Florida.
yeah. And I have a picture of you with him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was wild. I remember coming into work and it was like, oh, cool. And I feel that just seeing Mando getting swamped by people is wild. And that's probably gonna happen for the next couple of weeks. So if you're like, man, I'd like have to rush and see Mando, sounds like he's gonna be there for a while. So I would not, kind of be like, oh no, like I like have to, be on the next plane and go see him because it sounds like he will be there for a while. And then you have you have him carrying Grogu. That's great. The puppet is adorable. It's the same one that they have over at Disneyland, so it's the same thing. The only thing that throws people off is over which some people find it kind of controversial of what I'm about to say, but over at Disney World, at our Galaxy's Edge, it's more canon than the one they have at Disneyland, and the reason why is because we have the Halcyon, and we haven't been doing anything with Mando or Boba Fett or Fennec Shand. When at Disneyland, they do all that, and it's because we have the Halcyon. And when people go on the Halcyon, they are coming off the ship specifically to the timeline that the Halcyon is on. So I'm really curious on how they're going to deal with that in the future. Even though he just walks around the marketplace and everything, and like in that area, it's great, it's wonderful. But going forward, I think it's going to be really interesting if they're going to be, maybe testing the waters and be like, maybe we should change the timeline of Galaxy's Edge or the Halcyon or something like going forward, because it's great seeing Mando. It's great seeing Mando walk around, and as much as I love the sequels, I think the Mandalorian and the timeline that the Mandalorian in is more interesting, in my opinion. And I think going forward, just seeing the crowds gather around one guy holding, Grogu in his satchel, I think that's a big indication that change might be coming in the future. So that's something to look forward to. Yeah. And then we've got, you're curious on why Daisy Ridley's not going to be at Celebration.
Yeah, they made some more announcements that Michelle Ang and I believe Simon Castanedes, who plays Axe Woves, will be signing. And then we kind of had there was some speculation out there that they stopped announcing people. But we all know that Daisy Ridley's from that area, and that'd be a great opportunity for her to like kind of capitalize on that and not have to travel. But she just traveled all the way across the world to go to Lucasfilm for a visit. So I don't know. It's to me, it's one of those
things. She doesn't really do
things.
cons though. Like, I mean, I think Celebration makes sense because of Star Wars, but she doesn't do signings or like the normal photo ops like the other actors do, and neither does Oscar Isaac or John Boyega. Could that change in the future? Maybe, but I'm not surprised that she won't be there.
Well, I think the people you listed are constantly
working
on location, on set, doing something.
Yeah.
It shocked me tremendously to see Felicity Jones there and to see I'm blanking on the name. Help me out, Colin.
Say it.
Saw Gerrera.
Oh, Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker signing as well. That was awesome. He's also in the video games. He voiced Saw Gerrera, and of course he's back in Andor, which I love. I'm glad that they didn't he didn't be like, nah, I'm gonna pass this time. But yeah, I would think Daisy would want to sign. I mean, she has to know that she has a ton of fans that want to get pictures and sign, and then she sees Ewan do it and Aiden do it. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things. So, leading into the next question off of YouTube from Evan Opaker.
Oh my goodness. You have no idea how excited David and I are for this because we're like, all right. So kind of a backstory. In 2017, I got a photo op with Hayden, and then this past year over at Anaheim, David got a picture with Ewan, and he also got something signed as well. This year, we're doing a photo op, which is the first time that these two are actually doing like a public photo op for with people to buy and everything. And David and I are doing that with Ewan and Hayden together. That's like a childhood dream for mine. And that's definitely gonna, I'll probably walk out shedding a tear because these actors shaped the Star Wars of my generation. And it's also kind of full circle because when I first met David, I met Hayden, and then this past celebration, he met Ewan, and now we're meeting the opposite two of the people that we've met before. And then we're also meeting other people from our childhood, which is Andy Serkis, also known as Gollum and Smeagol from Lord of the Rings, and he's shaped the entire motion capture, the whole motion capture business. Have you seen, if you've seen Lord of the Rings, Planet of the Apes, King Kong, that was him. So go and check out the projects. But yeah, no, super, super exciting stuff. Yeah.
So I think this Facebook user on here, he hasn't registered for his name to appear on the podcast, but he says greetings from Norway. I believe that's Jim from Norway. He's the one that designed our original logo.
Oh.
And
hello.
He works in the filmmaking business, and he's had several things get really big. And I believe he worked on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
That's cool.
And also worked on one of the I believe it's Wolf Viking.
Oh, okay.
A movie he had on Netflix.
Oh, yeah,
that was #1 for a little while.
Yeah, they just confirmed it to me. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
So, yeah, it's like a month away, Colin. We're gonna be in London, man. We're gonna be there.
So I know you just got your passport, but I just got email saying that mine's on the way. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's one thing I was kind of worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and I
cool.
posted it. I was so excited, man, to get it like a month in advance, man. I posted this on Facebook. I was like, I got it, man.
Nope.
This was the one thing that I was like the most worried about before going on the trip because I got my passport really late. I ordered the expedite service and I paid extra for that, but I was just so worried about this thing, not getting this thing in time, because without a passport, you absolutely cannot go overseas, right? You can't travel anywhere.
No. And I mean, unless you travel all the way, back in the 1930s and you're Indiana Jones and you're on a cargo plane or something.
So my brother was talking to me about like having a birth certificate on me and trying to use that, but I'm not sure if that even works. So
no. I mean, again, I don't know, but yeah. No, guys. Star Wars Celebration is around the corner. We got so much Star Wars news on the way. We've got episodes dropping every week on Wednesday for our live stream, and then it comes out Thursday the next day, and then we do our breakdowns. I know David's smiling because someone just said Celebration needs to come to Texas. I don't know why you're trying to suck up to David, but okay. But
well, Mob Rules, I think, lives in my area too.
Funny.
And man, we need a celebration in Texas, man.
Yeah.
Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, even Houston. I'll go to that one too. I was in Houston yesterday.
Well, there's time because Star Wars Celebration is skipping a year. It's not happening in 2024. We'll get it back in 2025. We don't know where it's going to be. Big guess is going to be Orlando. That makes the most sense. But what's also great about that is it gives you time to save up and everything, and work on costumes, do what you have to do. Just get ready for that possible announcement at the end of this celebration of where it's going to be. Yeah. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, to have it in the middle of the country too. I mean, we already had it in Chicago. That was the north, kind of towards the middle. Now we can have it in like maybe Dallas.
That was great for me. I loved it. That
I need my celebration close by now.
Yeah, I know, but to me that was like a 2.5 hour drive, and I was so happy because like I could just take my armor in the car and just drive there. I mean, I could do that in any celebration that isn't overseas, but that was great. No Max Rebo news, unfortunately. I'm still waiting for the episode of the Mandalorian when they go to Tatooine and we just get a drive-by shot of like we like see the ship and then you just see Max just kind of, he's just on the street, just kind of walking around, and I think that would just be amazing. And then I would be able to, pause it, do a live stream saying in all your faces. No, I'm just kidding. But I
just got two more things, Colin.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to Joseph Shirley, who took over for Ludwig Göransson for Mandalorian Season 3. I don't think anyone noticed that Ludwig didn't do the scoring. So it's kind of seamless kind of handoff there. And also, if you go on Amazon right now, you can buy a Bo-Katan or a Fennec Shan Funko Pop for only $2.99. The limit is 3, though. So I tried to buy like 10, but it was like a limit is 3.
They also have a store on like if you have Disney Plus and you go to the area where the Mandalorian is, they actually have a link directly to the store where they've got exclusive stuff, like kind of different stuff for the Mandalorian on there.
Yeah. So mine already came in, so I already got the Bo-Katan Pop.
There you go.
And since I told you I got 3 of them, there's actually a possibility to get a limited edition one, which is a limited edition chase figure. And it just so happened that one out of the 3 was the chase figure.
There you go.
So I got that, and of course, they got the Fennec Shan as well. So I'm showing it right now, right here on video on YouTube. So
there you go.
I got that one as well.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, I got 3 of each. And that is it for the Star Wars Stuff podcast. And thank you for all your love and support. Like I said earlier, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel or anywhere else you're watching us on video, please subscribe, like, comment. Drop a comment below on YouTube for sure if you're watching us on YouTube. It helps out the algorithm there for the show. And, of course, check us out on Instagram, Star Wars Stuff Podcast, Twitter, @StuffPod. Of course, check out our Patreon page. I have tons of videos now that I need to edit and upload. A lot of our story stuff. Colin has gone to Galaxy's Edge. He sent some videos in. I need to upload those. I'll probably do a couple today, hopefully.
Yeah.
My interview with Leilani Shu should be up there shortly. We're also on TikTok. You can email us at starstuffpodcast@gmail.com. I have a terrific Facebook group. Tim Seitz is on there. He's always dropping a lot of stuff, helping us out. Also, go to Apple and leave us some reviews. We've got some pretty good reviews lately with 5 stars. Also, go to Spotify, where you can follow us there and you can rate us there. Definitely do that on Spotify, even if you don't listen on Spotify. That'll really help out the podcast. And we have a Star Wars gaming channel on Twitch that will randomly go in. Do we have a set schedule for that, or is that kind of
it's been coming and going. We are kind of getting into that more set schedule now going forward. I just had a gaming type meeting with everyone on our team over there, so things will go back to normal on that. But yeah.
So yeah, man. Liam, Evan, see you in a few weeks, man.
Can't wait.
It should be awesome, terrific, mind-blowing. The celebration maybe of a lifetime, man. Who knows what's going to happen after that? Maybe a celebration in Texas, hopefully. So for Colin, my name is David. May the Force be with you.
Always.